Hello everyone! So today I am going to show you guys how I'm going to edit my own gallery. I decided I was going to take a little impulse photo shoot in my greenhouse with my daughter, and you'll have to excuse some of her facial expressions. She was not feeling very good at all today, and I'm going to be using the presets that I always use from the Atticus collection. So sometimes I use the Atticus Sunset collection, and sometimes, rarely though, I will use the Atlas collection. But most of the time I use the Sunset collection because it's my favorite. I've already kind of gone through and looked at a couple of these. I do want to try a couple of these real quick just to see, because I only went through like the first 5 and then I was like, okay, I'm set on this one. But I would like to look through all of them so I can keep my options open. I guess that's like a toxic trait of mine. This was the one that I was going to use. I like how this kind of looks. It's definitely like tones that I would normally go through. This is just too white for me. I'm not an airy photographer at all. I love these kind of tones where like your photo looks like super, like, I guess it's like sepia. Maybe, am I saying that right? Sepia? I really like these ones right here in the Atlas collection because they're spot on, like the type of stuff that I would love to have in my images. Like what my images usually look like are like golden, like dreamy kind of photos. I usually will edit with either this one or this one, but this is kind of like an inside, so a lot of these presets are gonna look kind of weird and wonky because made for outdoors. Sam's a pretty good preset as well. Actually, if I look at this preset and I compare it with Sam, to me, they're pretty much the same. It's just with Atlas 03, there's just a lot more blue. And I guess that's okay, like if you're looking for that kind of thing. Personally, if I use Sam, I would brighten some areas so that it just doesn't all look like it's the same blob of like warm tones. Lunar looks really, really good, and I'm probably going to do Lunar, but who knows? There's so many just opportunities here that this is what I have my hardest time with, is breaking away from the ones that I normally use and just using something new. So like if I were to compare Lunar to Sam, that's so tough for me because like I really like how Lunar's like that. I know I started the video off and I'm pretty sure I said something about how I already know what I'm gonna use, but let's look through these. That was a big fat lie. Like I said, toxic trait. I have to go through all of them because FOMO. So anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and actually apply 2 of my presets. I did make these presets myself. It's the clarity texture detail, and all it does is it puts my texture at -20, my clarity at -10, and my detail is at like super low. Basically, I don't want that at all. I'm actually going to pull my clarity back up to 0, and then I'm going to also do my lens correction and see how it already just brightens up the image. So I had to make those, and I just stuck it in my preset collection so that it's just right there. I can access it whenever I want. So first thing we're going to look at is our white balance, and I'm going to lower it just a little bit, not a whole lot. But I love looking at the tint. So like it's at 15 right now, but if I put it on 0, that's what it would look like. Some people love how that looks. I kind of like how that looks, but it doesn't match with my dial, but that's what you would get. That's what you could achieve. I'm going to also see what 10 looks like. What does it compare to with 15? I'm probably just going to set it to 10 because 15's a little too, it's starting to go a little too purple for me. All right, so my shadows. So usually some people like to pull their shadows way up here, and sometimes some of my images it works out, and sometimes it doesn't. It just depends. But I think I'm going to stay, I think it was at 80, so we're gonna stay at 80. You can pull your whites up if you want, but obviously it was pretty sunny back there, so the white coming in is not, it doesn't look really nice. So my black, I'm actually gonna take my black down, which means I can probably pull my shadows back up a little bit more. My contrast is actually quite a bit down, so I like to keep my contrast at like -20 for a lot of my images. So I'm gonna put this back at 80, and I'm gonna go ahead and put this at -30. So you can literally do a lot of stuff. Like even if I didn't do that, I could just come over here and we can do, well, hold on. Actually, I think this was set at like 20. Yeah, that's a little too much contrast in there for me. So I'm only going to put it at like 10, and probably going to put it to 90 again. I think that looks good. So my texture is set to -20. This is what it looks like if I didn't do the texture. So you can choose to do the texture. You can choose not to do the texture. Honestly, I'm probably going to reset my texture back to 0 because I have been using my Portraiture, and I've noticed when I do use my portraiture, it looks a little too overdone, and I think it's because my clarity and everything has been wonky. So I'm actually gonna put my clarity up to 15, which is super just not like me really, but we're gonna go ahead and do that. And I'm gonna drag this up a little bit. So I'm doing this because I'm over correcting that clarity that I put in there. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna move on to my calibration panel. Most of the time when I do these edits, I only hit my basic and my calibration panel. So what I usually do in my calibration is I am a sucker for the blue primary. I usually leave my red primary alone. My green primary, I'm a little comfortable touching, but it's still pretty rare, and it usually only stays on the positive end of it. And for the saturation, I usually have it on the negative end. And so for my blue primary, I usually like to keep that somewhere in between like negative 30 and positive 30. Just depends on how the image looks, because either it goes to red or it goes to green, and it happens like really, really fast. And I like to keep my saturation anywhere from basically negative 100 all the way to like plus 20. So just like I said, depends on the image. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna see what does it look like if I do this. So as you can see, that really just like brings a lot of that warmth back in. So here it is with a negative 40. Honestly, I'm probably going to keep it like that, but I do want to try something. So here's at negative 30, and I don't think I like that. It's a little too red for me. So we're gonna try a negative 20, and so I think it was at like negative 23 before. So we're just gonna leave it. We'll just leave it. Rarely ever do I put grain in my image. If I ever did, I would probably do something like 32, 31, or even 31, 32. But that's the amount of grain that I would put in the image. Just enough, little tiny bit. Like, it looks super cute, dainty, you know? I usually do the cropping after. So what I do makes things so much easier for me. I come in here, I'm a cheater. Boom. That's how I do it. That's how I edit my images. And we're done. Just kidding. No, I do. Obviously, I look at each of the images to make sure that there's no other tweaking, but I try to shoot the same way throughout all of my images so that I can do this in post-production. It just makes things so much easier for me. Also, what I'm not going to do is fix her boo-boo. She's my baby, and I know she's clumsy. She's so clumsy. Every time I go outside, she gets hurt. So I don't care. That's a memory for me, so we're just gonna keep that. I'm trying to think of what I'm looking for. Oh, my blues. Yes, I wanted to take the blues out because I was realizing there's blue in my curtains, and I don't like that. think this is everything that I want to do with it. I may come back into these two photos, so this one and this one, because I think my skin looks a little, like it looks a little dark, so I need to make sure that, oops, what we did in the last ones, we also did like over here. So it looks pretty okay. So I'm thinking that maybe like the overall image just needs to be up, and I think would be okay. Alright. Photoshop. Alright guys, I have opened everything up in Photoshop. Now for the sake of my computer system being able to record this and be able to run the actions, I'm only going to record for this one photo. But everything that I put on this one photo is going to carry over to all of the other photos. I'm going to open up my filter and we're going to go to Portraiture. Alright, so I am going to zoom in just a little bit so I can actually see what it's going to look like. So I think we're gonna do normal on there, and I've got, you know, my enhancements, all that enhancements and stuff like that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add, we'll do 2 contrast. Brightness, I'm gonna keep the brightness there. Warmth, I'm gonna keep that there. That to like right there. But what the heck is this do? Use mask. So I'm still learning Portraiture very much so I'm just gonna go ahead and do all of that. So that's gonna be, that's what I'm gonna use. Alright, so this is my image. So this is before, this is after. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna flatten the image now, and I'm gonna try a couple things to see what I want to have on here. So obviously I'm gonna put my pocket full of sunshine. See, it really brightens it up, and this is just at 50%. You can tone it down, you know, to like 10 if you wanted to, and see it's still brighter. It's just, you know, tiny bit brighter. So I'm only gonna add the pocket full of sunshine just barely to my image because I don't want them to be too bright, but I don't want them to have your dark areas. And I think that's what we're gonna use. She's over there just trying to get my attention by fake crying, and I turn and look at her and she just laughs. So here is my film grain on, and you can turn it down, you can turn it all the way up, like that's just what it is. I think it looks super cute if it's toned down, so I'm actually going to add just a little bit of the film grain to this one because I think it actually, it could work. So I'm gonna hit enter so it keeps that, and I'm gonna zoom in, and you can kind of see like what it's done. Like it's added a light bit of grain into it, but what I'm really liking is how it diffuses that light back there. So I might actually turn this up to like 35, and so you can kind of definitely see there's a difference there. So you might just be like, why did you even use Portraiture? I kind of like it. It's growing on me, so I might just do it. So anyways, that was all that I have for you guys today. It's just me editing my greenhouse session with my daughter, and yeah, I'm hoping to get another Sims video for my photography career out here pretty soon. So I just have to find the time. Anyhow, I'm gonna let you guys go, and I'm gonna jump off here, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!